trust Sam Darnold to have a clean game?
No, I don't trust Sam Darnold to have a clean game. I think that he's going to have an opportunity. I hope he does, because I love his story. But I do think that New England brings a lot of different looks, a lot of different packages, game plan specific things. They're going to do a good job of disguising, and they're going to force him to make post-snap decisions. So it's going to come down to how well he can assess what they actually are in after the snap, and that creates great opportunities for him, because there's going to be times where guys aren't in the exact spot they need to be, and if he can take advantage of it, there's chances for big plays. But there's also chances for New England to generate huge plays, either with strip sacks, interceptions, all those things that come with forcing a quarterback to make post-snap decisions.
Yeah, look, I think he can play a game where he doesn't throw an interception. But like you said, you saw the turnovers. It was 20, I think 14 interceptions and 6 fumbles. So I think a key is the pass rush. So if he's fairly comfortable, then I think he can play a clean game. But if they can get enough of a rush, and they've been great in the postseason with the pass rush, if they can pressure him and get him uncomfortable, then either an interception or 2 or a fumble should be on the table for him. But the interceptions, I do think he can be clean in there, because if you look at, he had 14 interceptions, as I said. 6 of them were against the Rams.
In 2 games.
Right, and 2 games. So if you take out those 2 regular season games against the Rams, in his 17 games this year, the other 17, he's only had 8 interceptions. And so I think that he can play a clean game if they give him a little protection. The key is the fumbling, though. I'm worried about.
I hate but respect the Seahawks' difficulty with the Rams. It just makes it very difficult. Like, just take out these Rams games, and Sam Darnold's better, and the defense is way better. It's interesting that they've had such a problem with the Rams.
Well, except, I mean,
there's a prolific quarterback they're facing, and the defense.
Yeah,
you know, I get it,
but
but
they
that
did go
doesn't
2-1 against them.
Yeah.
They had a ton of trouble, statistical trouble with them. And listen, they only lost 3 times all year. One of them was to the Rams, and they could have gone 0-3 against them.
Yeah.
You know, they could have. In theory, could have gone 3-0 against them. But yeah, the Rams, and there is less of a if Matt Stafford did it against the Seattle defense, why can't Drake May? That less of that applies to the Rams defense and the Pats defense. Like because the Pats defense is better than the Rams defense. Why did they? You're definitely gonna hate my answer to this, and you might hate my answer to this.
Me and Coach are in lockstep, so I'm gonna whatever Coach says, I agree.
Despite the fact that Darnold's thrown like his last 100 passes or something without throwing a pick, somewhere around there.
Your last 3 games.
Yeah, 107.
Oh no, I swear, I just didn't.
3 straight games.
I didn't cheat off your paper, buddy.
How'd you even know it was on my paper?
You just asked me if I cheated off your paper.
Good question.
I don't trust him to have a clean game. I don't trust Drake to have a clean game. And I don't think it necessarily matters, because there are only 2 teams in the league all year who are totally equipped and totally used to winning games when their quarterback turns it over multiple times. And they are the 2 teams playing in this game.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating observation that we almost never witness truly pristine, flawless performances in Super Bowls. It simply does not happen. Whether you're Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, or Joe Burrow, these elite quarterbacks are typically not operating in a sterile, mistake-free environment. It's just not the norm in today's game, not the most frequent occurrence. Consequently, the central question for me isn't about trusting Sam Darnold to deliver a clean game. It's about trusting him to have a quality game. This is particularly interesting because Sam played an absolutely phenomenal game in the NFC Championship. It was unbelievable, awesome, fantastic. I live-streamed that entire contest, and I have been one of his staunchest advocates and defenders throughout the entire season. He was brilliant. However, he had a specific moment where he attempted a throw that could have resulted in absolutely catastrophic consequences. I don't recall the exact play, but I vividly remember the feeling. I was thinking, oh my goodness, no. It was a pass that seemed destined to be a pick 6. My reaction was, oh no, what did you just do? And yet, it didn't happen. That's football. Matthew Stafford had a couple of passes in the divisional round against the Bears that could have been intercepted, but weren't. So, to me, it all boils down to whether you ultimately suffer the consequences of those risky decisions. This is precisely why turnover-worthy plays is one of my favorite statistical metrics. It genuinely illuminates how often a quarterback is putting the football in jeopardy, strictly in the passing game. That's what this stat measures. It's not about holding the ball too long or being strip-sacked. It's strictly about putting the ball in harm's way through the air. Sometimes you aren't putting it in harm's way, and it still results in an interception. Sam has been on the receiving end of a few of those, where it was just an unbelievable defensive play, and I don't fault him in those instances. But there have also been plenty of occasions where Sam absolutely should have been intercepted, and he wasn't. The ball was dropped, or it somehow escaped. You have to assess how that balance shakes out. Now, I believe because of Sam's reputation and the intense scrutiny he faces, particularly following a game where he did throw multiple interceptions, every single time he puts the ball at risk, there's a hyper-focus on it. People immediately think, oh boy, that could have been disastrous, or he got lucky there. It's intriguing. There are certain quarterbacks where I really zoom in on those types of moments during a game. Baker Mayfield is one of them. Sam Darnold is another. Patrick Mahomes is also on that list. There's just an extra, I don't want to say incentive, because there isn't one, but it's simply on my radar. When I watch certain passers, I'm actively looking for it. To be fair, I do this for all quarterbacks to some degree, but it resonates more powerfully. If I see Patrick Mahomes make a throw that clearly should have been intercepted but bounces off a defender's hands, it really lands for me. I feel it in my core. Conversely, when I'm watching Drake May, for example, I'm also taking notes, but he doesn't seem to make those risky throws as frequently from my vantage point. On the rare occasion he does make a throw that perhaps should have been picked but wasn't, it registers much less significantly for me. And humorously, the statistics validate this perception. Baker Mayfield led the NFL in turnover-worthy plays this season. Patrick Mahomes ranked 6th, and he didn't even play the full season. Had he played all the games, his rate would have projected to 23 or 24 such plays, potentially even surpassing Baker. Meanwhile, Sam was at 19, and Drake May was at 17. This is where the numbers can become challenging to interpret. You have to look at the general distribution, the meat of the bell curve. At a quick glance, it seems the bulk of quarterbacks likely fall between 14 and 18 such plays. Once you climb into the 20-22 range, you're pushing into outlier territory on the high-risk end. We see names like Baker and historically a Geno Smith there. That makes sense. But you also must consider the percentage, because if you're throwing the ball 600 plus times a season, you'll naturally have more turnover-worthy plays. Honestly, the percentage is probably the more important figure. There, you see Drake May at only 2.7%, Sam Darnold at 3.4%, and a player like Baker Mayfield at 5.4%. The point is, there's no master line we can draw with these types of plays, throws, or clean games. It's not like passer rating, where people aim for 100 plus, or completion percentage, targeting 64% plus. We don't have that clearly defined standard anymore. There was a time when the mantra was, never throw an interception. Now the philosophy has shifted. Interceptions aren't viewed as catastrophic if you're also throwing a high volume of touchdowns. It's seen as a trade-off. Some analysts who were once vehemently anti-interception are now more accepting of them in an aggressive context. I'm not going to pretend I have the perfect frame of reference here. My instinct leans heavily towards just don't turn the ball over. But I fully admit that might be a dated perspective. It's just that turnovers crush my soul a little every time I watch a game. I feel like they drain a team's momentum at the worst possible moment. This stems from being a kid, excited that your team has the ball on offense, only to see them give it away. It also comes from playing myself. If I turned it over, the thought was always, I did that, that's on me. So, any turnover always elicits a visceral, oh gosh, come on, what are you doing? That's why the turnover-worthy play stat especially hits home for me. So, there is no absolute trust that Sam will have a clean game, because it also depends on what the game script demands of him. If the game is completely under control, I do trust Sam to have a clean game, as he demonstrated against the 49ers late in the season. Not the first matchup, but the critical one just before the playoffs. He needed a clean game there because a mistake would have been the difference between winning and losing. Conversely, he didn't need a perfectly clean game in the playoffs because his team was dominating. It depends entirely on the structure and flow of the upcoming contest. I think what was suggested earlier is fair. Essentially, both quarterbacks in this matchup are susceptible to having some slippage, some ups and downs. That is absolutely what we've observed from them over the years. I'm utterly fascinated to see how both coaching staffs, Josh McDaniels and Clint Kubiak for the Patriots and the Seahawks Brain Trust, manage their quarterbacks. What type of leash will they have? What limitations will be imposed? What is the intended approach? Sometimes the game plan is simply, let it rip. Recall the Philadelphia Eagles last year on the opening drive of the Super Bowl. They had Jalen Hurts on a 4th down near midfield, attempting a 40-yard bucket drop pass to A.J. Brown. To me, that's a wild call. If he doesn't throw a perfect ball, it's a disaster. It ended up being called back on a penalty, but the point stands. That's the kind of aggressive mentality some coaches have from the outset. They're just letting it rip. I'm not going to pretend I have any reference point for what Clint Kubiak and Josh McDaniels are specifically planning, because that coaching philosophy has a massive influence on how clean or unclean a quarterback's game will be. Both Sam Darnold and his counterpart like to operate a bit off script. I think when Sam is rushed and sped up, that's when mistakes can proliferate. But it's also Clint Kubiak's responsibility to manage that, which I believe he's done a significantly better job of this season with Sam than, say, Kevin O'Connell did last year in Minnesota. As for Drake May, considering the type of quarterback he is, the concern about a clean game for him is different. It's less about forcing dangerous throws and more about, will he get stripped in the pocket? That's a slightly distinct problem. I don't think you can necessarily force Drake May into the same kind of concrete passing mistakes that Sam has sometimes been prone to. However, it's a good observation that many of Sam's interceptions this season came in a concentrated burst against the Rams. A couple of those were just beautiful defensive play calls and schemes, great individual efforts by the defenders. Those, to me, are just handshake moments. Tip your cap, they won that battle. It wasn't necessarily Sam being unclean. But yes, the Patriots possess an awesome defense, and they absolutely have the capability to disrupt Sam Darnold and make him profoundly uncomfortable. That's why I then place a considerable amount of responsibility back on Clint Kubiak's shoulders to scheme around that pressure and manage the game effectively. I'm excited. We are so close to this game. It's going to be excellent. I'm pumped, and it's going to be incredibly fun to watch. But those are merely my perspectives. I am absolutely eager to hear yours. What are all of your thoughts on the Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold? Do you trust that he will have a clean game? Please share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. So whether you concur with me or vehemently disagree, let's engage in some discussions. Let's have some spirited debates. But ultimately, let's simply enjoy the conversation. Please consider subscribing. We are building a fantastic community here and would absolutely love for you to be a part of it. My goal is to foster something we all feel genuinely connected to, something we are excited to participate in. I believe we are well on our path to achieving that. Also, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely assists with visibility and the platform's algorithm. Thank you so very much. See you next time.